Welcome to my show. It's a guest here. Her name is Sherry Brourman. Mrs. Sherry, how are you doing, ma?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Mrs. Sherry. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a physical and yoga therapist, and you're also an
Yeah.
educator. Can you please, Mrs. Sherry, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Sherry?
Sure. I was the lucky kid that fell into her job when she was really a child, and so I worked at a little school for handicapped kids starting when I was 12 years old, and I have been inspired by that, I think, for my whole life. It inspired me to study physical therapy, which I've done now for 50 years. And um, the they're really not shortcomings anymore, but in coming up in the field of physical therapy, there was the very big shortcoming of feeling as if you had to think locally and you had to think about fixing things. And that's just not the case. And so when I found yoga and yoga therapy, I never dreamed I was adding that to my career. I thought it was just for me personally. And so I had that luxury of learning by practicing before I even knew I was going to ever bring it to publicity. And then they coalesced naturally. I didn't decide to do that, it just happened because I couldn't speak to anybody without bringing the multifaceted ways of seeing and being that I was learning in yoga and yoga therapy. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for the insight. Definitely, as a person who begin career, most of the time we are in a position whereby we do not know what comes next. And therapies, even yoga was something that came next. And it was so beautiful that you have to even put it in every single thing you have to be doing, which also made you build a career in it. That is so beautiful. And also from the book you've written, From Bodily Knowledge to Intuitive Movement. Can you please, Mrs. Sherry, discuss more on the book? And do you also have more book regarding to yoga you're planning to write in the coming future, Mrs. Sherry?
Ah, that's an interesting question. I'm going to answer the second one first, which is probably, but not at this time. But from bodily knowledge to intuitive movement took 10, and if I'm really honest, 12 years to write. And I did go in a cave to write it, meaning I did practically nothing else with any time that I had. So it was a huge endeavor for me, and I loved every minute of it. I'll tell you. Oh, and I do have a prior book that's called Walk Yourself Well, and that book is really the basic foundation to this book. That book was produced in 1998, so you can see how much time it took me to recover from that when it only took 4 years to write. But this book, when you're a physical therapist, even though the field of physical therapy is indeed growing, you're thought of as a mechanistic fixer. And my book is kind of defensive because it's so not that. And so I practiced for so many years, maybe 20 years of yoga before I had any idea a book would come. And I had this light bulb moment this day when I was practicing just all by myself in my house. I was on my mat, I was practicing, and I was in the other world. I was in the zone in my practice. And which doesn't happen every time, but it did that day. And suddenly I realized I was going to write this book. And this question, this profound question kept coming up the whole time. What are the words? What are the words? Oh, there aren't any. When you get to the place where you can feel movement, it isn't about alignment and it isn't about being strong and it isn't about your physique. It's so much better than that. And so that really gave me the juice to write the book. I wanted to share the beauty of understanding the mechanisms of the body and the systems of the body and the transections of the mechanisms and systems of the body. It's complex, but the ability to leave that behind and use it only to the extent that you feel safe and confident in your personal machine.
Exactly. I completely, relate to what you are saying currently. Before an idea definitely come into one's life, probably writing a book or doing something more different, they have to be experienced regarding it. One would have seen the ups and downs. One would have seen the issues, the things that could benefit a lot of people regarding when it comes to yoga and other things that could benefit. So having that idea for many years and trying to use those experience and those mistakes and setback and ups and downs you've had to bring it to encourage other therapists who could be out there that could be doing things like this that could also help their clients and also help themselves in building themselves to become better therapists and also a yoga practitioner is very, very powerful on its own. And that is why the book is so much special in its way. So thank you so much for the insight. It's a very powerful book which brings more on the perspective of yoga, and it's definitely help one to get more insight and also help a practitioner or also a client who want to also learn more regarding yoga. And also, there will also be definitely some small shifts someone can definitely make in their daily life. In our life today, we're in a position whereby a lot of people are isolated and also a lot of people are more of lonely and which could bring a lot of obesity and stuff like that in the generation that we are in the coming future. So can you just share an example of a small shift that you think someone can definitely make daily that could surprisingly make a very big impact? And if you have, or if you have any idea of what kind of tools you also think or practices that you think or you recommend for helping clients deepen their semantic awareness, Mrs. Sherry.
Yes, definitely. First of all, that was so beautifully well said. Thank you for that. And so, yes, I think the first thing is that when you present a client with a small shift they can make that can indeed make a profound difference. Um, if you can use something that establishes your common ground with your patient, you have a much better chance of that being heard, being felt, being taken seriously. And so the thing that we have in common with our patients, we all breathe, we all have hearts, we all have the ability to recognize certain aspects of our physiology. Sure, some people will tell me, I don't have a pulse. Or I don't hear my breathing when I go around. Things like that, because we're so unaccustomed to interoception and introspection. But that's the first thing is you got to choose something and gently find a way where your client can relate to the idea of that common ground, whichever one, comes up. You got to notice like what's really going on with your client and pull one that you think will be visible internally for them. Tools that help a lot. Nobody remembers. Listen, I don't remember. Nobody remembers to do it all the time. Um, and so you prioritize one of these physiologies, for example, and then you got to do something to help yourself remember. So, like, sometimes I'll have a blue dot on my computer, and every time I see it, it's to remind me da 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 da. Or I'll wear some really silly piece of jewelry, and every time it bothers me, da 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 da. Um, and you can use timers. So I sit a lot when I'm writing, and so I have a timer that makes me stand up periodically. So you gotta, be with your honest humanness and do dumb things to remind yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
that definitely shows that small shift. actually definitely make a very, very huge impact in one life. It just depends on how one wants to definitely do it, as you said earlier, getting the steps and everything that one can definitely do to definitely improve his or her life. And also the therapists themselves, they have to look for some, there is not a specific tools, as you've said. It depends on what really definitely works and how one can definitely relate it in one way or the other. As you said, you use timer to just know how you could get up and get to get things done. So definitely every single person as a practitioner who are also having clients would definitely have to try their best to know what really works for them and how they could also help themselves to get themselves back up. But understanding his or our client is very important so that there won't be other, ups and down and mistake that could come along the way. One will definitely fall through the right path and the everything just continue to bring itself to the right shape due to the terms that you
Mhm.
understand the clients you've had. So I would like to also
That is
dive
it.
to some areas when it comes to shifts. There are also some powerful shifts that
Mhm.
you talked about in your book. Some professional shifts. So if you can dive us a little bit on that and discuss more on that powerful shift, Mrs. Sherry. What do you think are also some powerful shifts you personally seen in your own professional practice, which you've learned for many years, more than 20 years now, since applying these principles in the book, Mrs. Sherry?
I love this question. I think the biggest thing I can say is that I have so much more confidence in teaching. I have so much more confidence in finding the common ground with my clients. Um, Not just because I've done it a lot, but really because I've worked on it inside for myself. And I know what it's like to um, miss, for example, wow, I was really upset by that. My heart rate went up. My breathing became short, and it took me more time than I would have thought to catch that. And I want to be in sync with myself, and so I'm using the same tools I'm teaching to help myself remember these processes. So yeah, confidence in teaching, I think, is the greatest thing. It's scary to take well your own and your client's health into your hands, to give out ideas and suggestions. It is scary. And if you're not scared, you're missing something very important, because it's a big deal. People are going to listen, and it needs to be authentic. It needs to be useful. So I recognize that every situation is new. You have to bring innocence to every single moment and every single client. Don't ever think you've seen it before, because you've never seen it before.
Exactly. That shows that no matter how small, no matter how years one have definitely been in this career when it comes to a yoga therapist or a practitioner, that means there will definitely be new things one will definitely have to see, and that is why there must not be massive or conclusions that could be done in a way. So it's very, very important for someone to take note of such things in the area. I think you want to say something, Mrs. Sherry.
I do. I would have loved to have also mentioned a thing that happened to me in the transitions across becoming or landing where I am now, is I had to give up my hero ego. I used to really like taking responsibility for people getting better, and that's a mess. That's just a mess. And it's also very stressful, because that means it's your fault if it doesn't work. It's your fault if they don't get better. And it isn't. You give, you share, you love, you empathize, and then it's not about you at all. Then it's about them and what they choose. Ideally, I want to inspire them to choose beautiful things, but it's up to them.
That shows that as a teacher, it is very, very necessary and it's very, very powerful in very ways. It's definitely not an easy task. One has to definitely be more of confidence and not too forward and not too giving the much answers that he or she definitely wants from the clients. One has to be sure and have to, lower his or her confidence so that he or she could know what is really going on. And also,
Yeah.
as you said earlier, one has to also definitely make sure that all these things are also put into place, as you've said, as a person who has had the experience when it comes to some areas, and you've learned and you've grown in that area, which is very, very profoundly inspired. And also, I would also like to dive to the point of the area of your book, which so define bodily presence. Bodily presence is something that's also new regards to your book. So how do you think you can define the body presence, and why do you think it is also so critical in any healing journey? And also, if there is also one message or principle from your book that you personally think you want movement professionals to embody, what do you think it will also be, Mrs. Sherry?
So, bodily presence, I'm going to start with what it is not. It is not being athletic, it is not being happy, it is not strength or agility, or being able to perform postures or be a good basketball player. None of that has really anything to do with bodily presence. Bodily presence is a soul thing. It's something that comes from deep down inside. And by learning how things work, there's a safety in allowing yourself to step into your true self, to step into your own authenticity. And that is bodily presence, whether it's in movement or in sitting meditation or in doing the dishes. Bodily presence is a soul thing that is uniquely yours. Nobody has it like you have it. And feeling confident about personal bodily presence is a very, very big thing to have. Um, if there is one thing I wrote notes, and on this question of is there one thing that people could take, I couldn't help it. There were 7. To trust your body to heal. You have to define what that means, because healing has a lot of potential, a lot of different potential meanings. But trusting your body to heal requires choosing the body that you have. Choosing the body that you have doesn't mean you have to get better first. You have to get taller. You have to get thinner. You have to get none of that. Choosing the body that you have is honestly being present and excited by the forward gear of trusting your body to heal.
I honestly agree with you, Mrs. Sherry. That shows that every single one of us have different body. We always understand our body. That shows that the way my body works is definitely different from the way your body works. And healing, with the way the healing is going to go, will be different. If I injure today and you injure in the same place, it could definitely be different in its own way. It could take time in my place. It could not take time within you, and that is the beauty. Healing is very important. The soul is very important, and that is more important, very important in bodily presence. It is very, very important. The soul is not about athletes and it's not about stuff like that. It's also about the soul as a whole. So I would also like you to dive more in those perspectives, Mrs. Sherry.
The questions that come up with this and the ways that it can make people feel real defensive if you say something like this. Because wait a second, your body isn't having back pain 100% of the time. How do you get to tell me I should accept this body? Or, you're not on crutches or in a wheelchair. How do you get to tell me I should accept this body? And that is where the rubber meets the road. And I don't mean to minimize people who have episodic neck pain or something. Like, anybody that has, we grew up believing that there shouldn't be discomfort in our bodies. How did how did we ever get such an idea? And so humility has to come first. Humility, and humility has to include being with yourself in pain. You know, you have days where every pain you've ever had in your life are like screaming at you, and it's normal. It's normal. And so humility has to come first. And even that, you know, you can't say that to somebody in pain without thinking and feeling and establishing a beautiful common ground because they'll go crazy. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Humility is very important. And that is what a lot of people needs to understand. Healing is good. We could definitely meet a therapist. We could definitely meet a lot of people to help us within it. But it starts from us. You know, we have to work on ourselves in many ways. And definitely, there is no way we will be on this body. This body is just like a tool that we have. We will definitely have a lot of discomfort. Sometimes we'll have pain. Sometimes we'll have sorrow. It depends on the way we deal with it. It depends on the way we manage it. And that is very important. People need to know. And as you said, humility is essential. Humility is very
I have
tough.
one more.
It's very difficult to
Sorry.
have. And definitely, we have to definitely have that, which is very powerful in its own way. So I would like you to also dive more in those areas in regards to those perspectives, Mrs. Sherry.
Humility and gratitude. I mean, and you can only imagine how a client who's having terrible pain is going to feel when you tell them they should be grateful for that body. No shoulds, pardon me for that. But that when you discuss gratitude for somebody who's struggling with discomfort for any reason, um, whether they're feeling guilty, ashamed, isolated, hopeless, hard stuff, and gratitude, that whether the practice is nothing but breathing or it's a moving practice that's modified 50 ways to manage a difficulty into forward gear is where the gratitude lives.
Definitely.
A well, like a deep well that we can count on when we need it.
I definitely agree with you. There's no worries. You definitely have a lot of lovely insights. I have to be honest with you. You have a lot of lovely insight, and that is why I normally like a lot of yoga therapists. They used to have the value of life, this kind of sense of humanity within them, because it is very important regarding the job they've gotten themselves into. It is very important. Gratitude and humility, which is definitely not easy to have, but we definitely need to have that because this body we have to definitely be grateful for it sometimes. It's definitely not easy, but we have to definitely to be happy and be, contented, and also gratitude. If gratitude and humility is there, we'll definitely know how we could definitely thrive and also know how we could care for one another. And as you've said earlier from the experience you've had, as a therapist, it is very essential. We have to definitely, as a therapist, one has to definitely know how one can be not too confident, and one has to definitely know how to give the clients the answer. That means the client has to be the one to say how he or she wants it, not the therapist to bring the essential answer, which is very important. Gratitude, humility is also things that is very important for one to definitely embark on. And there is also a question I normally ask Mrs. Sherry. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mrs. Sherry, what do you think that thing would be, Mrs. Sherry?
That question makes tears in my eyes. The evolution of movement practice, I don't know, it's 5,000 years old or something. And it began with pure heart and pure soul. It didn't begin for getting good at something. It began for bodily presence. It was bodily presence. And so I'm losing the name of the person who said this, but I walk in the footsteps of the masters. The incredible gift we have of 5,000 years of depth, of understanding, of life, of love, that we get to have that in our fabric and work with that is the biggest gift that we have. That's we couldn't do it without that. Where would we be? People say, there's physical yoga, like they talk about how some people just do it and they want pretty outfits and they want to do gymnastics. And I think actually, because of this subject that we're on right now, that's not even possible. It doesn't matter what they think it's about. It doesn't matter if they want to wear a pretty outfit. It doesn't matter if it's on the cover of a shiny magazine, because it has the depth in it no matter what you call it. And I love that so much. It really makes me peaceful.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that is the best gift one can definitely have. If someone have definitely have this kind of peace and this kind of joy within him or her, experiencing the truth of life. This life that we are, this definitely has a very bitter truth, which you said earlier. We have to bodily presence. The soul is very important, and it's something that is very essential in our life that we have. Bodily presence is just something, no matter how it is, we have to definitely know how we could use it. We also have to definitely know how we could definitely be happy and also have the peace that we definitely need. It is very important, and it is just something that we definitely have to have in the life that we find ourselves. Regarding your book and also every single thing that you brought onto the table, I want to use this opportunity to thank you, because it is definitely not easy to have tremendous years, to have a very inspired experience, to now dive it into a book, from bodily knowledge to intuitive movement, and to also use the experience you've had to also come to communities like this, to also speak to people and also make people have more insights regarding the beauty of the life we find ourselves. This world is so beautiful. If we definitely know how to use it, we'll definitely have the beauty, and we'll also have the joy and the peace we definitely need. I also want to sincerely thank you for the time and the opportunity. This is a very, very important conversation. Thank you so much, Mrs. Sherry.
Thank you, Temitope, so very, very much. You brought the soulful questions that allowed me to really share what I believe. And I hope that translates well for your listeners. And I just feel gifted by getting to be with you. And so thank you so very much for that. Yeah.
Definitely. It's also an honor to also get to know you. Thank you so much for the time and the opportunity. Bye bye, Mrs. Sherry.
Bye bye.